One of the most striking elements of this movie, and it's like, right, we get glimpses of it in the trailer, is the home invasion sequence. I love what you do with the sound design. I love the placement of the camera, like around the windows, having the camera right there in the middle of like fisticuffs. Like, how was it kind of like staging that sequence? Because it really does set the stage for the entire movie.
It was so complex. The way I storyboard and where I think about movies is burdensome, period. But when you're doing an action scene, it's doubly burdensome, because if you think about kind of the way the traditionally one approaches an action scene, it's with multiple cameras and you're catching it, and then you cut to the feed or cut to the thing and all that stuff, and you're catching bits of stuff that you caught from multiple cameras and you put it together in this very kinetic way. So to do it the way I do it, which is, for this moment we're here, I'm going to orchestrate this shot that moves from here to here, and only that, it's counter to the kind of physicality of the scene. And so it's very, very hard. It takes a long time to shoot the way I shoot an action scene like that. I think it was like a week it took us to shoot that sequence. It was so hard to do. So whenever I write an action sequence, I'm like, oh God, here we go again.
Well, and as deeply unsettling as the movie is at times, I was surprised by the amount of like restraint in terms of like on-screen violence. There's quite a bit that's left to the theater of the mind. How was it kind of like striking that balance in what you showed and what you left to imply?
It's a very interesting thing. I found this on so many of my movies, but a lot in this movie is that, because the audience is so broad for my movies, the kids are, the 13-year-old boys are like, more blood, and then the older women are like, I'm not bringing Stephanie to this movie. She couldn't handle it. And then so you have to find the balance between the two groups. And I've found that, the art of keeping things incomplete is the most powerful way to actually conjure the most resonant and almost, visceral moment by not showing it. So ironically, I'm tricking the 13-year-old boys into thinking they saw what they saw, that by the sound effects or going to another, expression from a character. And then the older group still feels the impact of it, but they don't feel that I crossed the line into a, where it's trauma in the wrong way.
Speaking of those 13-year-old boys, like, you've been working with kids, Sixth Sense, Signs, Avatar, the list goes on. Like, Kristen knocks it out of the park here, as Wen. Like, what was it about kind of like, what did you feel that she kind of brought to her role?
She's a very specific person. She's very unusual, extremely intelligent girl, but she's also quirky. And I love that when I meet a human being that is their own invention. And so the process was primarily about her, ironically, teaching her to let go of all that and to learn a new craft of how to think about a character's emotion. And so it was just constantly reminding her about the ethics of storytelling and the ethics of acting. So rather than tricking her or her tricking us, I'm like, we're going to have to do this the real way. You're going to have to learn how to think like this child. And that took a long time.
And that is my time. Knock at the Cabin in theaters on February 3rd. Night, always good speaking with you, man.
Thanks, brother. Take care. It's good to see you. I'll see you on the next one.